All right, welcome back, and thanks for joining us again on our tag management tips as we walk through the tag management journey. Along this way, we've built out everything. We've defined the goals, we've audited our website, we've created our policy, we've architected what our overall entire tag ecosystem should look like, as well as our data collection system should look like. Now it's time to actually get to work and implement all of these different things. So that is the piece that we like to call our maintenance loop, just because like any good journey, it never truly ends. So we have already our tag policy. So we have defined what are the different tags, what are the different platforms that should be here. We have our architecture, so how all of the different tags should be loaded, what are the data points that should be collected by each, and then where should they be? Should they be on only particular pages, only certain interactions? So we have these two documents, so we have our standards and we have our rules. This is what everything should look like. Now, when you're first going through this process, we're going to start out with an implementation phase. So you're starting essentially from scratch, and you're going to be building out this overall tag architecture, you're going to be building out this data layer. Now, if it's a new initiative, so maybe it's just a new tag implementation, and all that it is you've walked through the process, it's approved, it's within the rules of your policy, it fits into the architecture, data that's needed is already available there in your data layer. It still needs to be implemented here, and then we're going to need to be testing and validating it moving forward. So this loop, the first time through, we're going to start with the full-on implementation phase, and subsequent loops through, which is going to be fixes. So we're implementing anything that we have defined here in our previous stages. We're then getting into the validation and testing stage. Now this is key. Just because something is shipped and is out there doesn't necessarily mean that it's working in the way that we're wanting it to. So we need to validate, we need to be testing. And what exactly does this mean? What are we testing? Well, we've already put a lot of effort into these prior stages. So we have the rules of what should be, what's allowed on our website, what's not allowed, what's required, where is it required. So one, we're going to want to be testing and validating that, making sure that no piece of our tag policy is ever being broken. And if so, we need to know exactly what is breaking those rules, where exactly it is, and then we need to put together a plan to fix it. We also need to be validating and testing our overall tag architecture. So what that would mean is just what data is being collected. I mean, if we have things that are defined that have to be surfaced in our data layer and collected by, say, our analytics platform, that's obviously critical. Without that data point, we're not going to be able to report on and then in the future optimize for whatever it is that we're measuring in that context. So we need to be able to validate, we need to be able to test that those sorts of things are always working. In the initial run through here, it's just going to be testing against our implementation, making sure that everything is set up properly. But on an ongoing basis, we're going to want to be monitoring that, and making sure that as our site changes or the platforms that we're working with change, that everything is still working as originally intended. So we're validating, we're testing our implementation, and then we're also monitoring and alerting. And this is really an extension of this validation and test stage. So by monitoring, it's that ongoing validation, ongoing testing. We work with a lot of clients that in the past have always thought about testing and validating as, oh, we'll just do an audit quarterly, or we'll just do an audit every year. One, that audit process then takes a lot more effort. And two, if you don't touch anything for an entire year, the chances of problems, one, happening throughout that year are pretty high. So if you're just counting on making fixes at one point during the year, during an audit stage, you're not going to have those resources available and ready to be used throughout the year as fixes are necessary. I mean, if you have a critical data point, for example, missing from reporting, that needs to be fixed now, so that those reports that you're trying to provide to the business and the business is using in order to make decisions are actually possible. Alerting here is allowing us to be proactive. So we're going to be monitoring and alerting this ongoing validation and ongoing testing that's happening so that as soon as an issue arises, we can know exactly what it is, where it is, put together a plan to fix it, and then get back into the loop, where exactly we're going to fix at this stage, whatever the tag issue is, data collection issue is, or policy issue is, and then we can get back to just the validation and the testing. So this loop is ongoing, but it makes sure that that sustainable architecture that we've built is able to be carried forward and always be used. This loop is also useful. We have our standard, our foundation built when we're first initially building out this entire process, but for any new functionality, any new platforms on the site, we then also go through those same stages and go through this loop as well. Going through this entire journey, start to finish, is going to, one, ensure that you have a very sustainable architecture that you're building on top of. It's going to ensure that the implementation process is done up to par and everything is implemented as it should be. And that's also going to allow you to be proactive and really have great management moving forward of this entire ecosystem. Thank you all for joining us along the journey. Hopefully you've learned something, and good luck as you move forward in your tag management lifecycle.